Okay, so now I'm going to show you how we're going to make our own windows. Of course, you can use the warehouse, but it's a good practice to kind of know how to make your own should you need to. And you can actually make all of the windows for this project and then save them as a component and use them again in other projects. So it's a useful skill to know how to do, and sometimes you can't find what you're looking for on the warehouse. There's a tutorial that I shared with you that you can look at how to make windows, but it doesn't exactly match this project. So I'm just going to show you now how you can do it for this one. So you'll notice that the C window, there's actually 5 of them. So this is a great example of a way that using the plan can actually, and making your own, can be relatively simple because you're going to use them at least 5 times. So if we look at the elevations, we can actually get an idea for the design of the window. In this case, the C window is a casement window, which is one of those crank casement windows that crank out, and the direction of the arrow will tell you the direction the hinge is on. So the hinge would be here. Now in this case we're not making them open, so it's not so critical, but what I do want you to look at is that when you look carefully at this window, you'll see that there's an outer part of the window, which is the frame, and then another line that represents the individual rails and style of the 2 windows on the inside. So this is not simply a square with glass in it or a rectangle with glass in it. There's actually some detail here that will, if you include them in your model, make them more realistic. So it's important to do that. That little extra detail will really go a long way. The other thing I wanted to show you was we need to look at the actual size of the window. So here we can see that the C window is a 4-foot by 4-inch wide and then a 3-foot by 7-inch tall rectangle. So we're going to go ahead and reproduce that here, and to do that we're going to be using our rectangle tool. Now we also know that our walls are 6 inches, so we're going to make a rectangle that is 6 inches, comma, and then it's going to be 4 feet 4 inches wide. So here is our rectangle for our window. So now I'm going to pull that shape up or extrude it up to the height, which is 3 foot 7 inches. And here's the outer part of our casement. All right, so now we said that what we wanted to do, it's actually 2 rectangles inside of each other, and on top of that there's 2 panels inside that rectangle. So I'm going to first put in where the half mark would be in the window. So we know that the window is 4 foot 4 inches. So I'm just going to pull a guideline here in the front that is 2 feet 2 inches, and that gives me the middle of this rectangle. Another quick way to do that would have been to also drag it across, and when you get to that cyan dot, you also know that you're at the midpoint. That can be helpful later on when we do the other side of the window. So I'm going to use the offset tool, which is here next to the scale tool, and remember with the offset tool you want to make sure that you're not going from the corner. You want it to be a red square, and you also want the surface of what you want to bring in selected. So I'm going to go ahead and click, and then I'm going to bring this in 2 inches. Then I'm going to take my pencil tool and I'm going to draw in that center line. I'm going to go to the top of that rectangle to the bottom, and I'm going to divide it. Then I'm going to use the offset tool again. I'm going to type 1 inch. I can double click and it'll do it on both. And now I'm going to go ahead and I am going to erase that guideline because I don't need it anymore. So now I've got that outer rectangle and then the 2 inner rectangles. Now I can start to play with this a little bit and make it look more realistic. This is 6 inches wide right now, and if I wanted to protrude out beyond the wall, I have to actually bring this outer edge out a little bit. So in this case, I'm going to bring it out 1 inch, and then I need to make the window pane go back a little bit, and we also know that it's at 6 inches, so I'm going to move this back 2.5 inches, and I can do that by typing 2.5 inches. And I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to come over here and double it up on that side. Now you'll see right here that there's a little line, so you can erase that. And now I'm going to swing over to the back. You can see that what happens in the front doesn't happen in the back, and basically do what I did before and make what I did on the front in the back. And I can go through a quick step, go to the middle, make sure that comes down 1 inch. I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to pull this out 1. And I'm going to push this back 2.5. Double click this, and I'm going to zoom in here to get rid of that. There's also one up higher. If I go in under here, you can see it here too. I'm going to quickly swing to the front and do the same thing here. Okay, so you can see that this starts to look kind of real, and but I need to add the glass. So in order to do that, I have to click on the materials window. That's up here under window, and you go down to materials, and this is where you can find lots of different materials and landscaping and all kinds of different things. When we do the roof or the siding, it will all be in here. But for right now, we're going to use glass and windows, and pick one of these, and I'm going to color the windows. Now you can see that it doesn't do it on the back side. So in order to get that real transparency, you have to go around to the back and make sure that you have it there. Now, before I do anything else, I'm going to group this, and so I'm going to triple click it, right click, say make group, and then I'm going to click it again, and I'm going to say make component, because remember that with the components we are creating something that we might use again in the model. So I'm going to call this window C. If I go to the window and I turn on the components window, select it, and here you can see there's a C window here and a C window here. I can actually delete one of these. Now that it's grouped, it's not going to stick in my model. Remember that if you want to copy something, all you have to do is select it all, hold the Option key, and pull another one. The other way to do it is once it's in this window, you can actually just drag it in. So there's a whole bunch of different ways to be able to do this. And if you want to add color at this point, now would be the time to do it. Keep in mind that once you group it, you do have to double click to get inside the group, and then you can go ahead and do your editing. And then when you're done your editing, you're just going to go outside and close it again. Now what we have to do is we have to put this into the window. So to do that, we're going to use the Move tool. And remember that you want to grab the corner so that you can line things up. It also is important that you can actually see what you're doing. I want to try to get it as close to where I want to put it in as possible. And I want to line that up. But you have to remember also we brought that out 1 inch, right? So it's going to protrude 1 inch beyond the wall. So to make sure that it's going out the direction that I want it to go, the arrow keys will allow you to lock it. So I'm going to drop it right there, and then I'm going to lock it on the red arrow. And if you look down, I want to bring this out 1 inch. So I'm just going to type that in. And what's nice is you can see that now it's protruding out 1 inch, but if I go inside, now I'm actually seeing it also, it's 1 inch out, because that's because the wall is 6 inches and added 1 inch on either side. Now another way, like if you have 2 C windows, kind of like what you're seeing here, click once to select it. I'm going to use the Move tool, and I'm going to hold the Option key down here, and now I can just drag it over to my other one. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to bring it out 1 inch, and there it goes. So I can actually continue to do this all the way around where I have the C windows. So I can continue to drag around and finish up my model. Now we just did the C windows, but as you can see, you can create all the windows you need for your house, put them in the components window so that you can use these again in any model that you do. It's not just this model. If you put it in the components window and save it as a component, it will always remember what components you've made, and you can drag them into any model that you do. Remember that we have at least 4 other types of windows that we're going to have to make here and here. These are different. Also, we have our B and A window in the front of the building. This is the A window, and we have 2 B windows here. This one is a C window, so I can just drag something. I can drag that in. If I have to rotate it, I go to the rotate tool, put it on my model, click straight out on axis. That's the easiest way to do it. Click again, turn 90 degrees, and you can type 90 in the corner. You can go in, and just like you used the move tool before, use the move tool again and put your window into the frame and pull it out again. So that's adding windows to your SketchUp model. You can also do the same thing with doors.